first one would start at the beginning with a joint training session, so a training session between you and the contractor. And I can't think of a better way than starting with a joint session, so you're building trust and cooperation from the very beginning, and you're setting out how you both intend to work together. I found that worked really well on both sides. My next one would be to use early warnings positively. There's a real blocker in the NEC with people thinking that early warnings are a negative. They're absolutely not. They're the first step in proactively resolving problems. They're not a yellow card. They're not a negative at all. In fact, they're a positive. And on the best projects I've been on, there's hundreds of early warnings, and it just shows a good level of dialogue between the two parties. It's not a way of transferring risk, so the contractor can't think he's offloading risk onto you as an employer, but they are an important first step to resolving the problems. So my next tip would be, do not underestimate the amount of resource you need to administer an NEC properly. Very often contractors in particular go in with very light teams and completely underestimate the amount of administration that it takes, particularly around programs and compensation events, and the two are absolutely intrinsically linked and need to be managed properly. You need decent resources that know what they're doing, and if you don't have them, you need to find them or train your own staff. The next tip would be on change management. You have to accept that change is going to happen on your project. Again, you have to resource properly for it. And if you follow the contract processes and have an accepted program in place, then you'll find change much easier to manage. But the other important thing for employers to realise is that the project managers have to have the right level of authority to manage the contract. So they have to be in a position where they can accept compensation event quotations or programs from the contractor. And very often we see project managers without that right level of authority. My final point would be a plea to employers, really, not to stray too far away from the core objectives from the NEC. Very often we see the employer will point to the first clause about mutual trust and cooperation, and then the rest of the contract is completely amended. And they lose the ethos of the contract, and it moves away from simplicity, it moves away from being a proactive tool, and we just revert to where we didn't want to be, which is a contract understood by very few team members and put at the back of the drawer.